In order, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our August 6th meeting.
We'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have one new public hearing tonight, which I will read into the record before we open. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law as amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on the 20th of August 2019 in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a request of determination of applicability filed by the Department of Public Works Superintendent Chris Anatelli to determine sidewalk construction at the intersection of Howard River and South Street falls under the Commission's jurisdiction. We're open. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Congratulations. We're getting sidewalks.
We are. 1 foot at a time.
That's about it, right?
Yeah.
So what is the actual proposal that you've got?
The actual first phase is going from Howard and West Center. Be connected from the crosswalk on the high school side. And it's going to go up the right-hand side of Howard Street. And it's going to come to River Street with a curb. It's going to actually shorten up the intersection a little bit, make it safer for pedestrians getting across, with a crosswalk going across over to River Street on the bridge side, and we're going to pick up a couple hundred feet from where the bridge sidewalk is over to this crosswalk. So it's basically Howard to the bridge is what we're connecting, with some modifications of the intersection. And then from there, we're going to hopefully engineer and head down River Street to the park. So I'll be back to see you.
One
when
side.
that comes up.
Just one side.
One side, yes, yes. We can't afford two sides.
Not unless the state ponies up more money.
Right.
Yep.
John, anything?
So it's the plan that Chris just described. The project is at the end of the fourth item on the documents that I sent you for downloading, and it kind of describes it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think you mentioned that you're going to tighten up the space on the intersection of River Street and Howard Street so it's not so massive.
Correct.
So we're losing some pavement there, which generates runoff, and so the only reason, as my meeting report indicates, that he's filing with us is because he's within the 200-foot riparian zone of the river, and and so we're going, if you do approve the determination of applicability, as suggested in the meeting report, we of course would ask that the erosion control barriers be put in at the back edge of where they're going to install the sidewalk. There's a grass strip there, plenty of buffer, but I think that would be the proper thing to do, so we'll condition it on that. So I'm recommending that the commission make a determination, negative number 3, that the work will is within your jurisdiction but will not impact the resource area.
Anybody in the audience? Questions? Comments?
So the runoff from the street, is that going to come down Howard and go down the other end of Howard and run into their storm drain down?
It's basically, there's no change in the storm water flows and everything except for
There's going to be more of it coming down.
less pavement actually in the end result.
Yeah, but with the sidewalk being up with a, like a little bit of a curve, it's all going to kind of like rush down one
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes.
that way.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to run, instead of running out into the grassy area, it's going to all kind of rush down. And but there
that
is
correct.
drains on either end, I think, right?
They're out drains.
Down at the bridge, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just all going to go down that way.
Yeah.
All right.
Anybody else? Any other questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll entertain a motion to issue a negative number 3.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All set.
All set.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you. We'll be back again.
Hopefully not too long.
Raise some more money.
How long do you think it'll take?
It's actually, within 3-4 weeks, it's going to be done.
Yeah.
And it should take a couple of days.
Who's the company doing it?
I'm going to say Tasco.
Okay.
That's what rings a bell.
Yeah.
I believe that was a state bidder. We just got some money too to do a signal at Howard and West Center. So
Lincoln?
we're going to get ready to do
Actually,
that.
got lights, red, yellow, green.
Yeah. So the plan is to be able to connect so that you could walk from the library, get a light, cross, go down Howard, go down River, come through the center, get another light, pedestrian button, and continue up. And you could have the first complete loop in town with sidewalks and signals.
Nice.
Okay? And it's coming quick. So we're gonna
What's
see
that
what-
little section of sidewalk going to cost that you're going to do
It
there?
comes out to about $136 a foot
Yeah, it's not cheap.
with granite curb and sidewalk. And we're gonna do our own looming and seating behind, which is gonna save a few thousand.
Yeah.
And I opted not to do tree protection, which was like $500 per tree. We can handle that. So we're gonna try to save as much as we can.
Yeah, that's the other question I was going to say. Is there anything that you guys can do to save money? And that's
We'll do our own signs,
Yeah.
taking them up and putting them back.
good.
Tree protection and our own looming and seating, yeah. The only thing you don't wanna see us do is put our own granite in. It's not gonna be pretty at all. All right?
Very good. Thank you.
All right, we'll see
Thank
you
you.
guys. Take care.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have 173 Turnpike Street.
Yes.
Informal discussion. What do you got?
So I'm trying to find a way to put a garage at my property at 173 Turnpike. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a plan so far to put it at 90 degrees to the current structure. Part of it will be in the buffer zone, but I can't put it anywhere else. I can't put it on the other side of the house, which would be ideal because when they developed the property, they put a house behind me, and there's a driveway there, so I don't have any space to put it there. And this is really the only space on the property that I can do it.
What size garage? 1, 2?
2-car.
Garage only or space above?
A garage, but just a storage up top, not a room or anything like that.
John, do you have any comments?
Well, it's
Right.
it's the 5th item in the downloads.
The 5th? Okay.
So you can see that the majority of the garage is within the 100-foot inner riparian zone of the Queesit Brook. It is partially into the 50-foot no-touch buffer, which is the other line that you see there on that plan. And it is will be encroaching into the existing tree and shrub line that's on the lot as it stands. So it's already a previously disturbed riverfront area, so there is some leeway that the commission has. But generally, the performance standards that the wetlands protection regulations require that the no disturbance of the inner 100 feet occur. And of course, the majority of the work for this garage is in that 100-foot inner riparian zone. The performance standards also require the applicant to show that it's not going to impact the ability of the riverfront area to do its job in protecting the river, the resources, the habitats, the wildlife that use the 200-foot corridor on each side of the Queeset Brook. And he's got such a small lot here, I don't know how he could mitigate those disturbances within the riverfront and compensate for what he is elsewhere on his lot. So the rest of the lot is pretty much in the outer 100 foot. So it's not a good situation in terms of trying to meet the requirements of the Rivers Act. So he's here tonight to see if the fact that the lot wasn't existing before the Rivers Act. I think I demonstrated that through some research. So it was created after the Rivers Act was created. So he's would have a little bit easier time meeting those performance standards if the lot was created before 1996, I think the date was. But unfortunately, the lot was created after that.
Is there a flood zone on this?
Yes.
And whereabouts is that compared to the?
I think it shows, let me see if I can zoom in on it.
I have a bigger version if you want to see this one.
Yeah. go ahead.
Because typically, if it's undisturbed tree or lot area, unless you're replicating and can replicate, we don't have much of a
Put it on you.
tolerance for tree disturbance.
That's not even going to be attached to the house.
No, it wouldn't be attached to the house.
Is that just a deck and area?
That's just the deck, the side deck, yeah.
And the driveway would be changed and removed.
It wouldn't be removed. That was actually what our plan was, is to build off this one and just kind of curve it this way.
Drive into it this way?
Exactly.
And leaving the paved area here as well.
Yes.
So you'd be increasing the paved area by 50% over what's already there? Between the garage and the new driveway?
It might be. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I would have to remove some of this to be able to put this one in. Whatever the...
This is all paved right here?
no, it's only paved up to just about here.
So what's on this side of the house right here?
Just grass. This is where I park my trailer right now. This is grass there. And a driveway for the other folks next door.
So there was no thinking about even putting a garage right here?
No, because I wouldn't be
There's
able to
not
meet
enough
the
zoning
Oh,
to make
for
the,
that thing.
Yeah.
from the lot line.
Unless you got a variance.
Right.
True. Is there any house lot over on this side?
Yeah,
Just
there's
the
a house.
driveway.
There's a driveway
there.
for these guys here.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about, this might be a little put the garage out back.
Yeah, I mean, I would put it. Oh, you mean put it behind
What if you
the house?
yeah. Right around behind.
Need a variance on that too, probably.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because let's see, that's. I'm just trying to think of how we can get you out of this.
Out of this zone here.
It's 100 foot.
Basically, what is the flood zone?
Flood is right this
The
one.
flood limit is this line. But the wetland 100 foot riparian zone is what we really need to.
That's the one that's the most.
Yeah. The 50 foot
because of the brook.
buffer is here. So the back of it's going to be in the 50 foot to begin with, which would have to definitely come out. But even then, keeping it out of the 100 foot.
How much farther can you come this way, you think?
I don't know if I can come much further that way.
We'll put it right in front of the house.
Be right, yeah, it would be right in front of the house. This is right at the edge of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can put it behind.
Yeah, I mean,
It's right there, this is all.
going behind it with a variance might be
I
your
mean, you get a
best
variance.
bet.
It's not like you're gonna really.
I mean, because the only other thing you could do is take this out and put it right off the end of the house,
And
but
then
then you're
go
still
in.
going to have to
Yeah,
have.
you're still in it. Yeah.
Still have to put a driveway in.
Yeah, you'd be almost better just move the whole driveway and just make a.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could cut the sidewalk, right, and put a driveway in here.
But
Now
we
we
still
go-
have to
go
deal
to
with
the-
crossing,
that's the
right?
problem.
How to, unless you cut it here and went with a curved,
Would I still be within that?
You'd be better off.
you'd be affecting less of it,
A lot
Affecting
less.
a lot less. I mean,
Okay.
if you put the
You might just be in a corner of it.
right, you might be in this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because
I mean,
that's just to get into the house, right?
Yeah, so this is just the deck to the backyard. So
But I mean, do you need this to get into the house?
no. I got a front door
Oh,
here and a side door there.
but there is an entryway in here as well.
Yes, there is a slide.
So you could use that from the
I
garage
mean, you put that in, like, and come in with through
and
the
then go into
garage.
the.
I mean, you're going to be parking in the garage anyway, so.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you think that I should talk to the planning guy and try to either see what we can do here, or, I mean, the worst case scenario would be,
What's out back now?
it's just a yard for the
Just-
dog.
I mean, would it be the end of the world if
Well, I mean,
you have kids playing back there and stuff?
our dog and our nephew, and
Yeah.
just try and have a spot for them to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
This would be, I mean, this would be the ideal spot if we could do it.
I mean, if you're going to put a garage here, you could park a trailer, like right here.
The trailer was going to go. What I was thinking is to clean up the yard a little bit to make sure get less here. Be able to come in and park the trailer right in between the house and the garage, so the trailer's out of the way of the, at least out of the sight line, at least. To clean up the property a little bit.
Only that you need to push it, back it all the way in.
Yeah, I'd have to back into the backyard. That would be the only other option.
John, any comments? I mean, have you been able to follow what we're doing on the map, the plan?
I have, and everything that you've suggested still creates the issue of how can he meet the performance standards. So his best bet would be to hire a very experienced engineer that deals with wetland permitting, who understands all the regulations and what kind of documents need to be submitted to demonstrate that you're complying with regulations. So far, what you've shown hasn't given me confidence that the person that you're dealing with has that ability. So you now have to consider what they're suggesting to you, and then getting either someone to assist your current engineer, or get a whole entirely different one, which chances are they would need to do a lot of the work that's already been done.
Right.
So now you're paying for extra work that if you if it was done that way in the beginning, you wouldn't have to be paying the extra.
Well, that's why they weren't able to come tonight. That's one thing I wanted to ask you guys: is there anything particular they need to do to try to make sure if this was built, what we need to do to protect
So
the area?
what I guess I'm saying in
Yeah,
so many
it's the engineer. Yeah.
roundabout way is the regulations are very specific,
Yeah,
and you need someone who can read those regulations,
yeah,
address all of the performance standards, and show how you could try to meet those.
okay,
They're clearly in the regulation right now, so they're available to any engineer working for you. And
yeah. You gave me a couple copies of some of the regulations.
right, so an engineer should be able to take those regulations, either say to you, I can't possibly meet these, so you shouldn't be even trying this, or I think we can meet the majority of them and hope that the commission's agreeable to allow you to do it.
Okay.
So usually I'm not this blunt about it, but
Oh, please.
you really need to be careful who you get to do it. And I would start off any conversation with an engineer and say, I'm trying to build in the riverfront, and I need to meet the performance standards. Can you do it? If they even hesitate 1 second, you go find someone else. You've got to.
Gotta meet the. Oh, I want to protect this riverfront too. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. I don't wanna-
What about also maybe moving this back
Back this way.
this way, then you have the door, you can walk in still. You just have the driveway going that way.
And then I would be less and less of
Yeah.
the.
Right, I mean, it's trying to get as much of this outside of this hashed line as
So this
as we
is
can.
the important.
Or more or less this one, if anything,
Right, I mean,
the
this,
biggest thing.
yeah, this here
The
is,
shrub line.
right, this is all grass area, so it's
Yes.
all previously disturbed
I see what
riverfront.
you're saying.
So it's already been destroyed, already been
Okay.
damaged.
And what's that?
It's a shed.
So I mean,
That shouldn't even be there.
that was probably there before he bought the
Yeah.
property.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of land that we had to- So by getting it out of the area that's undisturbed,
I see.
even if you are still within the 100-foot,
It'd be
You're
more.
better off. You
Right,
got a better
'cause-
way to do it that way.
yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, the engineer will know that that if you are having to do any work within this area, you have to meet the performance standards to help protect or mitigate what changes might be happening.
I'll
And he'll be able to feel it. But yeah, ideally, if you can get it outside of this tree line, so even if it's, say, kicked back from here to there, so that there's a little setback
Okay.
to pull around.
Or worst comes to worst, you put a one-car garage,
Yeah. And move it.
make it a little bit smaller.
And by the way, the Rivers Act requires an alternatives analysis.
What's that mean?
It means that you have to look at all the alternatives. So
that
if
makes sense.
You're going to be going like zoning board to get your appeal, putting it somewhere
Oh.
else.
Mr. Anderson just mentioned an alternatives analysis. You could try to put the two-car garage here, but if you can't meet it, and a one-car garage elsewhere would be more of an improvement on towards meeting those performance standards, that's the alternative you're obligated to go to.
I see.
So someone that you're going to hire needs to go through all the alternatives that are available to you. Can I go to the zoning board? And what is the likelihood of it? And then they'll do another alternative. Can I put the garage right up near the street at the minimum setback and then walk from the garage to the house? That's might be a great alternative in meeting all the performance standards, but it may not be something that you feel that you would like to live with. So those kind of discussions have to be presented as part of the performance standards. And that's what I mean, you gotta really get someone who
Yeah.
knows the regulation,
So
knows
many
how
of them
to
nowadays have it right
go
built in the
about
front.
all of
Put
the
it here and
steps that
then
are
walk in the
necessary.
corner.
Okay. I'll bring this back to them and try to see.
And you may not like some of the alternatives, but I mean,
No, yeah, I mean, I don't like the idea of a one-car garage, to be honest.
Right, because the other thing, a lot of them are being built now because of this
In the
area.
front of the house.
They have to put it kind of like in the front of the garage as part of the front of the house.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the setback here would be if it fit in, whether it fits off the side and goes 28 feet from the setback over to here and is a block in this side
The front
with,
of the house.
But if you got windows,
right, depending on,
the architecture of the house would have to, of course,
Right.
be adapted to it, but
and that would be one of the alternatives
Well,
that they'd
like,
look at
They would
is,
look at, okay.
some people, myself, they say, well, I want a two-car garage no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's either you do it this way
Or,
or you don't get it at all.
yeah.
So if you're acceptable to maybe one car, and you're willing to do a little bit of, moving around and
Yep.
doing what you have to do, then that's fine. But if you come in there with an attitude like, nope, I want it this way, that way, and it's like, well, See, that's just for my opinion. I don't like that.
But again, the engineer will look at
Yeah, but still.
look at what you've got to work
And he might
with.
tell you
and
the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
it's not a total no right off the bat.
Right. We have more work to do. All
Right.
right. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You're
Just as a
welcome.
suggestion, some engineers may hire a consultant to work with them.
Yep. I specialize
that does this type of permitting with other engineers. And so they may not have in-house capability, but they have a consultant they can go to and say, help us put this through. And so there's that type of thing as well. So let's say the current engineer that you have has someone that could do that.
Yeah.
And you can stick with the current engineer. But if they don't
Next year.
have that in-house
Works
capability,
me.
then you might want to look elsewhere. But like I say, they could find a consultant that would work with them that knows the stuff cold. And naturally, that doesn't come cheap, but you need to have that kind of expertise to get through this.
Okay.
All right?
Good enough. Hey, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Next, we have 783 North Main Street.
one sweet.
Well, we're back looking at this lot again.
Yeah.
That's the little tiny one.
By the across
They wanted to
from,
put a used car dealership on.
Oh, that one.
What are we going to do this time?
Well, I'm looking to do anything to satisfy you people, because I don't know if I can rent it or I can sell it. John really gave me an awful lot of information, but has to be spent about, say, $20,000 to $30,000. But if I'm going to sell it to somebody, my only concern is, can I sell it saying that with conservation's permission, you know, they will allow this XYZ on the property? Because I can't sell it knowing it's going to cost $20,000, $30,000 without telling the person that's buying the property if he wants to just do cars or if he wants to put a building. I have to be able to say, yes, you have to meet the requirements of whatever you people want, but I just want to make sure it's still buildable lot. That's my usable lot, whatever you want to call it. I know it's small. It's been in the family since the 50s.
is that the 50 right there?
Yeah.
Out near the street?
Yeah, I mean, realistically,
I don't see
to
anything.
be honest, if you can do anything outside of the 50-foot no touch,
Which is that cross...
which is the hash marks, that's about all they have for usable space. I mean, it's disturbed and it's mowed and it's grassy now, and paving it or changing that, I mean, wouldn't pass as far as,
I think last time we said something, rent it to a food truck or a hot dog stand and have them come in and just rent it for a little while and just
Yeah.
do it that way.
They never came back the next year.
So
Oh, no?
this is all,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
there's the 50
right.
from across the
So right
street.
now, I
No,
have a fellow
from here.
interested
This is the
in-
wetland line,
in
right
renting
here.
or buying
But
the
here's North
property.
Main.
Here's the
Cars on
50
it.
foot. So from this
But I
wetland
can't
flag,
sell it
50
to them
feet is here.
without
Here.
knowing-
From this wetland
Yes,
flag,
he has to
50
do
feet is here, so
XYZ to
How
get
much
your
is that there, do
permission,
you know?
but I need
275?
permission that he's gonna
275
cut it,
square
if you
feet.
follow what I'm saying.
I don't think you need anyone to
that's-
do it even if it was to pave it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, unless you had another parcel in somewhere else within that connected area that you could do a replication on,
That's it. That's all I have.
that would be about the only way I can see doing much with this.
I mean, you can't pave it.
I mean,
Even if I go with all the laws and put in a gasoline trap and requirement buffer for the water going out,
but where would you put it? You can't do it within the 50 feet.
Yeah.
well, that's why I'm here asking.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, you've got 275 square feet
Usable.
outside of the 50 foot. So everything you'd have to do to meet the standards for water
Using it.
protection and upgrading and
That's
drainage would have to go in that
In that lot.
spot. And then you'd still have to do mitigation for disturbing the 50-foot. And there's no area on there left to do mitigation unless you went to a site off the property.
Right.
Say you owned a piece just down the road.
No, I don't know what it is.
I know. but-
Well, you can sell it to somebody that owns a piece down the road that wants to add this to a development, and then they do replication somewhere.
Have to be a big replication.
It all depends if somebody commercially thought it was viable to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen state highway jobs where they've had to do that in different spots in town to do replications. So
So it
It's-
seems as if you're suggesting a food truck, yard sale, weekend yard, or maybe all the time yard sale, but temporary
temporary use on
uses.
the surface that's there.
Put up a canopy and sell roses on Valentine's Day or Easter lilies on Easter, or whatever.
Well, another thought came in mind is, how about solar? Could solar go on there? Could a tower go on there? I mean, I'm asking because I really don't know.
That'd be up to the planning board. True.
But I mean, solar doesn't require any disturbance of the wetlands and stuff, does it?
No, but they would be putting those panels up within the 50-foot buffer
Yeah.
of the wetland, which is not allowed.
Not allowed, okay.
And
so
then
that's
for what they
that-
could put up, it wouldn't be worth putting up
No, it
panels.
isn't big enough. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
questions. 'Cause
Yeah.
You know, I mean, right now, what you're saying is, I'm screwed. I got a piece of property that paid taxes on for years, been in the family for years. There was a building on it before, and now I can't do nothing with it. So what am I supposed to do? You know, that's what I'm
Like
asking.
John,
What can
like
I-
John said, I think the biggest thing to do is put a porta potty on there, maybe on a weekend, and rent it to somebody who wants a hot dog stand or a food truck or roses, flowers, or something like that. Just
Help pay the taxes.
it's not gonna disturb anything. They could just leave, and everything will be. It's not gonna get disturbed. And if you can get some rental out of it, that's perfect.
I guess I'm screwed.
Kind of stinks. Yeah.
At least it's not landlocked. There's a few of those.
Yeah. I mean, you do have basically, you do have an option to do something like that. So it's not like you
And I
can't do
mean-
anything.
I hate to say it in a way, the only thing working for you is the fact you kept it mowed and disturbed and maintained. Because if you'd let the weeds and everything grow back in and the wetland plants came back in,
Then it would be nothing.
then it would,
You pay them.
you'd be not able to do anything with it because
No,
it's,
I put the fence up because my mother was getting calls from you people saying there's a lot of stuff coming from McDonald's over there. So to stop it from going to the wetlands, I put a fence up.
McDonald's isn't even there.
McDonald's was just litter galore.
I'm all set for now. Well,
yeah. I mean, if you could, like Lee said, a food truck or some type of
That's what I'm
weekend,
limited to then.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's about the best.
Okay.
You can keep it up, though. Keep it up mode.
Well, that's what I do.
Yep.
You know, I try to keep it nice. You know.
Get some little bit of use out of it like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for
Alrighty.
your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Wish we had better news for you.
Well, you know, at least now I know. I mean, laws
Yeah.
change. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
You're welcome.
Perhaps, rather than moving to the next item, we have a Eagle Scout candidate in the audience this evening. Name is Nicholas Kuna, and he'd like to speak to the commission about
Sure.
a possible Eagle Scout project.
Sure.
Come on out.
Come on up, and what do you got?
I was planning on putting 2 benches at least in the rail trail. Just something for people to take a rest on.
Now, if you recall, Gavin Barrows was an Eagle Scout candidate who was thinking of doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, his age caught up with him, and he was not able to accomplish it before he turned another year older and no longer eligible to be an Eagle Scout candidate. So Nicholas is trying to basically pick up from that idea and complete the project that the commission had approved for Gavin.
How many you want to put?
2.
Two. Beginning and end, or in the middle and the end?
Location,
Yeah,
I'm still thinking about, but somewhere along, maybe beginning and
Gavin and I had worked out some locations, and I didn't have time since I made contact with Nick this afternoon to look up the file on what Gavin was proposing, but I offered to provide him those sketches of where Gavin was going to propose it. And there's not too many areas out there that you could put it without it impacting not only the slope, the existing slope there. You'd have to put some fill in or something.
Yeah.
So Gavin and I walked the trail, picked out a couple of areas that had a natural flat area, which wouldn't require a lot of alteration, tree cutting and that kind of thing. And so I could provide that to him, walk, if he needs, I could walk the rail trail with him and his family and show those areas, and if it's something that he wanted to do or he had a different idea and it was workable, we could do it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
What do you think about making them out of and the design?
well, I was just gonna save up money with fundraising to buy them from Lowe's.
Oh, so you already pre-made,
I think they would come disassembled, and then I would have everybody help me build them.
just put them together?
There'll be a
Yeah.
kit kind of thing that would.
Blend in.
Is it going to be kind of like two metal
Yeah.
things into the ground, or are you going to have them just set on the ground?
I think it would be into the ground.
Into
Something
the ground?
to hold it down.
Good answer.
So that it could be messed with.
Footings or
Yeah.
anchors or something.
Okay. Yep. So nobody steals them or anything like that?
If you hadn't already thought of that, you're quick on your feet. Good answer. Somebody will walk off with them.
I'm sure people would like to sit down and just enjoy everything out there. I think it's a good idea.
Especially it was already proposed before anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have our blessings. So if John's willing to work with you and give you the plans on locations that we had before, and you want to run with those, then
Excellent.
thank you. Great job. We'll look forward to seeing them
Yeah.
progress.
Too.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks for
Do
coming in.
you have a problem with that age creeping up on you, or are you going to be all right?
Taylor.
It's getting a little close, but I think I
It's
can.
birth in January, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do before the end of August. We don't wanna,
Well, you want to do it too before the ground gets
Yeah.
frozen too.
So this fall?
we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Good.
Sounds good.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Next, we have 55 Crescent Street
All right,
easement.
I gave you, some reason my screen is,
Went to sleep.
so I provided you a document that was a draft at the last meeting, and I finished it off and got all the proper spellings of the names and everything. And so I'm recommending that if the commission so votes, that I provide it to the property owner, have him and his wife sign it, notarize it, and get it back to us so that the commission can vote to authorize Tim to sign it, and then they'll have to record it. The property owner will have to record it.
John thinks it's going to meet what we need to have met.
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was originally.
The one that he cleared out back then.
The original one didn't let him go more than 30 feet beyond the back of the house. and
Where we had already disturbed and put the drainage in.
And so, over the course of a number of hearings, the commission agreed to allow him to do that encroachment that he had already done, as long as he fenced it off and left the area to the right of the house that was previously disturbed by the developer, but was being maintained by the second owner after the developer sold it, and was being maintained by the current owner. And he agreed to leave that area alone and let the area that he disturbed on the other side of the fence to naturally vegetate itself back into a wetland, to save him some money rather than planting. And so I inspected it today, and he is leaving that space to the right of his house untouched. He's got it fenced off, so he can't even get in. You can get in there, but you'd have to work at it. And then he's actually has come a long way in the real wet area that he had disturbed, is really starting to take off and grow back in with good vegetation.
I remember it now, yeah.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
No.
Not, I'll entertain a motion to have me sign the easement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Is that all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next we have certificate of compliance for 800 West Center Street.
I recommend issuing a certificate with a bond for $1,500 because the grass is barely grass. And it's going to be a while before it will grow back, so probably sometime in the fall. So the way this usually happens is you'll sign the, if you do vote to do it, sign the certificate of compliance. If they give us a bond for $1,500, we hand them the certificate. If they don't want to bring the money to the conservation office, we hold on to the certificate and have them call us when they feel the grass is sufficient, and then we don't need to hold the bond. So if that were the case, I'd alert the commission that that's what happened. So I guess the motion would be to issue the certificate with the bond, or, which I didn't put in my report, hold the bond until the grass is grown
established. All right.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. 140 Brooks Place, certificate of compliance.
Okay, the same thing. Grass is just pretty minimal, and I recommend the same motion to issue with a $1,500 bond, or hold the certificate, signed certificate, until the grass is grown.
I'll make the same motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. The next one.
That was Brooks, right?
Yep.
All right. And 381 East Street.
This one's been around for a while, so the grass has grown very nicely, and so I recommend issuing the certificate of compliance without a bond.
Make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I think that just leaves anything Kitty has us to sign, and then John has number 9, which is number 10 Turnpike Street. Harvey Industries building permit in 2004.
Yeah, there's one before that, but let's do the 10 Turnpike Street. All the departments in the town hall have been getting requests for public records. from 3 different engineering, environmental engineering groups, all for the same place, but I think they're all doing different things at the site. One might be looking to upgrade the drainage system. Another one might be looking at the environmental 21E preliminary phase 1 study for a financial institution, and maybe the third might be just looking at upgrading the septic system. So they all probably have their own expertise, and they're looking for information, and they're all out-of-towners. They're not somebody that's local. And so to save themselves money, they send in a request for public records. And in so doing, in looking at the records, I found out that the Commission issued a certificate order of conditions, in 2004. The building got constructed. The order of conditions was never recorded, which is required as the first step in any permit. And naturally, there was no as-built or certificate of compliance issued for it. I've got a picture of what the Harvey Industries building looks like as part of the documents. And it's been there for a while, obviously. But right now could be the time to say we're providing the current owner an enforcement order to file the order of conditions after the fact, which would then require a certificate of compliance by any title attorney that were to finance this operation. So it might be the proper time to do it. Or the Commission could say, water over the dam, and we might have egg on our face if we insist that they do it. So it's up to the Commission.
Harvey owned it and been there the whole time?
Yeah, how long have they been there?
Since 2004, but
Isn't there a
just
drug
like-
company or something there?
just like anything else, Harvey Industries has an LLC called Harvey Prop LLC, which handles the facility and probably charges rent to Harvey Industries. So it's most likely, and I don't know enough about it, but I'm surmising that it's all the same.
More than likely, a Harvey entity has owned it since 2004 and should have done the as-built and submitted the proper paperwork and done the filing. I don't have a problem with egg on my face, so.
Well, it could come back and
If they have a solar building,
bite us later if they sell it.
if they sell it, would it bite us?
It could.
I mean, people will be looking for that. I'm
Right,
sure.
I mean, it's going to more bite them because they have to, if they want a certificate of compliance.
We'll put it this way: if they do have to, say a year from now, they went and sold it, would they have to come and do all this?
No, except for the engineering companies have been alerted to the fact that there is a violation because they did not record the order of conditions.
And if they did sell, they'd have to act on that.
And probably some very good attorney would say, we don't want that possibility of the Commission saying, maybe we should send the new owner a violation notice. So I think they probably would want to clean it up.
Take care of it. I don't know. They've been there for.
And it's not like they're asking them to file a notice of intent. We can provide them a true and attested copy of the order of conditions, attested to by Annie. They could file it at the registry for the filing fee, whatever that is, and make the project in compliance. Now, they still technically need to ask for a certificate of compliance because the order of conditions, DEP says when the work is completed, you must ask the Commission for a certificate of compliance.
Which they would get.
Right, which we would issue if they asked.
Almost immediately,
Yeah,
because it's already been built, once we got an as-built in front of us. And
But
I'm
if
sure,
there's an engineer working on something already, then they're going to have a most recent plan.
there's most likely, with this type of transaction, they've asked for what they call an ALTA survey of the property. ALTA means American Land Title Association. It's a group of title attorneys that form an association and have a set of standards of how you allow transactions on big commercial properties. And one of the requirements is to have a as-built survey of the conditions as of today. And then that's your as-built. And so it's not like somebody would have to go out from scratch and start all over. They probably are in the process of doing it. So I think it's a right time to do it. And
if they were to add on to the building, I mean, they'd have to do the same thing.
yeah, if they were adding on to the building, then they'd come before us and we'd say, look, you have an outstanding order.
I think it's not
Should
much
do
of
it.
a
Yeah.
hassle to them, or it's
Not a
really-
huge hardship.
It's not nothing really to us, though, other than just to send them the paperwork, right?
Right.
Send them a friendly enforcement
Yeah, I
order.
mean, that wouldn't be. Yeah, this is just something
I
that just
mean-
needs to be done, just in the long run.
Hey, a reminder, we were looking at our files and there's an
Yeah.
omission that needs to be rectified. And
And if they have a problem with it, then
I don't think they would.
I don't think they will. I mean, it's not like we're going to be holding them back from doing anything.
Are they still there?
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been working on a spreadsheet of compliance items. So first item is to file your order of conditions, and we would be able to track this so this type of thing wouldn't happen in the future, because it does happen.
Sure.
You know, I've signed off on building permits and then said to the person, oh, I forgot, but you've got to do this first before you do any construction. And they'd already filed their order of conditions, supposedly understood them and signed that they understood them. And they didn't comply, but I had signed off on the building permit, but I reminded them, I'll give you a couple of weeks to get this taken care of, or else I'm going to have to give you an enforcement order. So sometimes the office forgets, but with this checklist, this might help everybody involved, and so hopefully this type of thing won't happen in the future. Now, unrelated to this one, we've already instituted the surety for COC on the last two order of conditions that you signed last meeting. And one's been in and deposited with us, the other still
Silent.
hasn't come in. So I don't know what's up with that, but it's probably not a big rush then. So we think we found a way to deal with not getting certificate of compliances. This checklist might work with people getting this order of conditions filed at the registry. So tightening up a little bit and making things work a little bit more efficiently.
Well, then I'll entertain a motion to send a friendly notice of non-compliance of filing.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And the one before that on the meeting report is the sludge issue at 426 East Center Street. I sent you, I had you download a Facebook screenshot of one of the local residents was at a family barbecue over a weekend, and they indicated in that screenshot that there was a terrible smell in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And the young lad that was at that residence had received a drone for his birthday, and so he sent up the drone and he took the pictures of the back area of this property, because you can't really see it from the street. It's has buildings and vegetation and stuff, so that you can't see behind the main buildings on this property. So luckily he was able to get up high enough, took the shots, and there's definite sewage sludge being deposited on the property. The sludge, if it's from Earth Source over in Rainham, is permitted to, Earth Source is permitted to manufacture the sludge and distribute it. But there are other regulations, including our own stormwater bylaw, that says that sludge cannot be applied to any land, whether there's agriculture or not, unless the agricultural person shows and demonstrates that they've complied with all the regulations for applying sludge to land. And Mass Department of Agricultural Resources has a plant nutrient regulation that's very specific on what needs to be done to prove that you just don't go dump it in piles on your property and bulldoze it smooth. You've got to apply it at a certain rate that's appropriate for what you're growing. And this person came in, sent him a letter, and he came in like 5 or 6 days later and said, I have a forestry plan, I have a certification that it's a forestry agricultural property. And I said, that's good, but you now still have to meet these regulations. And he said, what are they? And I started to explain it to him, and he asked me to send it to him in the mail. So I photocopied all of the regulations and wrote another letter explaining the various parts that you don't need to read 300 pages of regulations, but you need to look at these particular items, and if you can show me that you've complied with those, then we've gone a long way to show that you're all right. But if you can't, then you've got to stop. So I haven't heard from him. I'm going to give him a few more days. So by the time we have our next meeting, either there'll be legal action being taken by another entity within this building, because the administration is on top of this and very concerned and always asking for updates as to what's going on out there. So I think if...
Because I remember the last time we had problems with this, you can only stockpile it for so long without incorporating it or spreading it or disposing of it.
Right. And you've got to present plans that show where you're going to stockpile it, where you're going to apply it.
It's so great.
And it has to be outside of the wetland area.
Is it that wonderful that you really want it, or?
It's because, from what I can surmise, the manufacturer of this product can only stockpile it so long at their facility, and by just driving by their facility, I can see they're stockpiling it far greater than what they're allowed to by their permit. So it behooves them to spend money to get rid of it. And so a landowner such as the one on East Center Street is getting it brought to him for free and being paid to allow it to be dumped there. So there's a very strong economic incentive to this landowner to allow the stuff to be brought in.
If it's tested and produced properly, it can actually be a benefit to the soil.
Yeah.
But it has to be produced right and treated right, and if it's actually got the nutrient value and tested, then yeah, it can work. But if it's just almost 90% lime, it really doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of benefit.
That's been the issue all along, isn't it?
Right,
Things like
is
that, yeah.
what it is and how they're applying it and what rates. And I mean, if you put it down and incorporate it and mix it right in, then it does what it's supposed to.
And the EPA has established a manual on how to apply sludge to land, and the best way to apply it is by liquefying it and spraying it, because then you can control the rate of application per acre, per square foot, whatever. The other is to put it into a broadcast spreader, let's say like an old-fashioned manure spreader, which has the tines that throw it up into the air and spread it out as they go. This fellow is using none of that. He's having it dumped, and he has a loader and maybe a small bulldozer of some sort, and he's just pushing it out into the woods. And
So
the trees don't need feet of sludge pushed around their tree trunks.
And most native trees in New England don't need that much line.
No.
Not native ones anyways. I
So
mean,
the potential is it may have to dig it all up and haul it out.
or his trees are going to die,
Yeah.
and he's not going to have a forest.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Where is that property? 460.
You know the antique store near
Yes.
near the is it BMW?
Auto Works or the
Auto
Motor.
Works.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It's behind,
Behind
that.
that.
Out way in the back.
So when you
Of course,
drive
yeah.
by, you see the antique store.
Yeah.
It's kind of a house just a little bit behind it, and a big red building
Yeah.
behind that, and a driveway that's kind of
This is a farmer or just a...
He's not necessarily a farmer, but he has a forestry plan prepared by
Okay.
the Natural Conservation Resource Service, or some state entity that he showed me, and so it's not farming.
Yeah.
It might be a forestry piece of land that he's got a forestry
okay.
plan for, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's, like I say, the economic incentive is for the producer to pay people to
That's
take
the
this stuff.
Landscaper?
I think there was a landscaping outfit that ran
Landscaper
up
to the left of
left of
this.
that. So the landscaper, I think, is in this part over here.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, yeah. So, sounds like we gotta move along on that one.
DEP, who permitted the facility to manufacture this sludge, has been working on the issue of them stockpiling it far greater than they're allowed to on their own site. So, like I say, there's probably pressure from DEP on the manufacturer to get rid of it.
Sure.
And in order to take it to a landfill or to a place that handles the landfilling of less than pure soil. So
expensive.
Your road sweep, for example, is a special solid fill that can't just go anywhere. It has to go into a specialized engineered site. So wouldn't this stuff, and it costs money, a lot of money to dump it there. So it's cheaper to find people like this individual on East Center Street
Right.
and say, we'll give you $1,000 to dump 3 loads.
Yeah.
Well, geez, I could use $1,000.
Right.
So most people jump for it, but when you get
I think
confronted
it
with,
might be a little suspicious.
when you get,
Is it radioactive or?
yeah, where did it come from? And when it stinks like it does, then
Yeah.
I don't care whether I'm getting a lot of money or not. I don't want it on my property.
That's right.
And it's not really doing an agricultural benefit to the land the way it's being applied. So maybe 1 truckload liquefied and sprayed at a decent rate would benefit the forest, and then that would be the end of it. But there's a reason why many loads, and I just got a text over the weekend from one of the neighbors saying the trucks were still going in over this weekend. So it's not an end to the story yet, and I'll keep the commission updated. But I think the town administration might have to take legal action, get a court injunction to stop this until the owner can, and I'm not speaking for the administration, I'm just guessing, but the way to go would be a temporary injunction, stopping the deliveries, having a hearing in court, and having the owner explain how he's complying with all the regulations, and then the judge would say, okay, then everything's all set. Or
Right.
you're not complying, and so we're going to stop you permanently. So there's the issues. It's going to cost some money
Yeah.
for the town to do it, and obviously it'll cost the landowner some money to defend himself. But this is where I think it's headed, and it's the only, unless the landowner wants to come in and talk and figure out this issue in a very efficient manner, then it's not going to cost them anything, other than he may decide, I'm not going to have this delivered anymore and I'm not going to get any more money for it. But if it has to go into the legal end, it's going to cost.
Yeah, well, it still has to be cleaned out.
Because
And
the way it's being applied now, it almost sounds like it's fill.
Yeah.
And if it's filling within the wetland or within
Oh,
our
God.
jurisdiction, it's
Oh,
not,
please.
I mean, it's fill. It's not,
Yeah.
there's no soil test or anything done to say what the application rate should be and if there is an actual benefit. And so, yeah, I think the powers to be need to move forward.
And to boot, whether there's wetlands on the property or not, the stormwater bylaw says if you're altering greater than 5,000 square feet, which
Yeah.
is 50 by 100,
You need a filing.
you need to file with the approving authority, which is a commission.
Right.
And if you're over 15,000 square feet, you've got to have a public hearing, and you have to get a set of conditions.
Sure.
And of course, the conditions would refer to the MDAR's regulations. And if somebody's going to do it the right way, then so be it. But if you're not,
I'm not sure there's a right way in this particular case.
so that's the update on that.
All right.
Kitty, anything to sign?
Well, you've been really good and done most of them. So you can sign that, and then you can sign this.
When we're signing, does anybody have anything else?
No, sir.
John, anything?
Nothing else?
All right. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can you make a motion?
Second.
Moving say all those in favor?
Right.
So moved. Well, it wasn't 7 o'clock, but we still didn't do too bad.